The dojo was alive with a quiet yet intense energy. The rhythmic thuds of bare feet against polished wooden floors blending with the occasional sharp crack of fists meeting practice pads, the scent of sweat mingling with the faint aroma of polished wood and leather equipment, and sunlight spilling through the tall, narrow windows, casting long, golden shadows across the room that danced with the movement of students as they practiced their forms in pairs or individually. They're focused. Expressions reflecting years of discipline and determination. While in the center of the room, the air seemed to tense and thicken, as if the very atmosphere were holding its breath. All eyes subtly drawn to the two figures who were about to confront one another. Jason, a young man whose confidence teetered on arrogance, his posture rigid, muscles coiled like a spring ready to snap. His eyes scanning Maya with a mixture of curiosity and challenge, a smirk playing at the corner of his lips as he shifted his weight from one foot to the other, clearly planning to demonstrate not only his skill, but also his perceived superiority over her. And Maya, standing opposite him, calm and composed, her stance flawless, shoulders relaxed yet ready, eyes focused and unwavering, exuding a quiet strength that contrasted sharply with Jason's loud confidence. Her breathing steady, almost meditative, as if she were perfectly aware of every motion in the room, the pattern of the air currents, the subtle shifts in Jason's weight and intent, each student around them sensing the impending confrontation, whispering in hushed tones, some with anticipation, others with apprehension, while the instructor, observing from a distance, adjusted his stance slightly, a knowing expression crossing his face, recognizing that this encounter was not just about physical skill, but about understanding and controlling one's energy. And as Jason stepped forward, deliberately exaggerating his movements to appear more threatening, he raised his fist in a swift, sharp motion aimed directly at Maya's midsection, intending to test her reflexes and expose a weakness that he assumed must exist, his smirk widening as he imagined the ease with which he would demonstrate his dominance. But Maya did not flinch, did not even shift her weight, her eyes calm, yet penetrating, analyzing the trajectory of his strike, the subtle tension in his shoulders, the way his balance favored overextension, and in that moment, the world seemed to slow, the echoes of footsteps and fists fading into the background as the focus narrowed entirely onto the small space between them. Jason's confident energy radiating outward, Maya's composed presence like an immovable rock, and as he lunged forward, expecting to provoke a reaction, she allowed herself to remain perfectly still, her stance unbroken. Not because she lacked awareness of the attack, but because she had already anticipated it, reading his movements like a book. She had studied for years, ready to turn his own momentum against him without wasting unnecessary effort. And in that charged silence, with every other student frozen in a mixture of awe and suspense, the true essence of martial discipline was revealed. That strength is not always shown through motion or aggression, but often through the ability to remain centered, to observe, to predict, and to act with precision. And in the flicker of an instant before the first physical contact, the entire dojo seemed to recognize the significance of this confrontation. The energy in the room charged with expectation as the quiet yet formidable Maya prepared to demonstrate, in a single, decisive moment, that true mastery is as much about inner balance and composure as it is about outward technique. Jason, flushed with confidence from his initial approach, recalibrated instantly, his mind racing with strategies to assert his dominance over Maya as the room seemed to tighten around them. The ambient noises of the dojo fading into a tense silence, broken only by the occasional shuffle of a foot or the faint sigh of a student holding their breath in anticipation, and with a flick of his wrist and a sharp pivot of his hips, he launched a more aggressive combination, a flurry of punches and strikes designed not only to test her physical skill, but to unnerve her, to provoke a misstep that he could exploit to prove that his reputation as one of the most formidable students in the dojo was well-earned, the air around him charged with the intensity of his movements. Each motion precise, yet forceful, slicing through the sunlight that streamed across the polished floor, his shadow merging and stretching with each calculated attack. While Maya, standing perfectly grounded, did not flinch, did not recoil or shift unnecessarily, her focus absolute, her gaze tracking every subtle shift in Jason's weight, the tension in his shoulders, the way his fists sliced through the air, the rhythm of his breathing, analyzing not just his movements, but his intent, as if she were watching a carefully choreographed pattern that revealed itself only to those who truly understood the art, and while the other students' eyes widened. Some mouths slightly agape, whispering to one another in disbelief at the audacity and skill of the confrontation unfolding before them. Maya remained serene, her mind clear, her body balanced, aware that in this very moment, the essence of martial discipline was being tested, not by brute strength, but by perception, patience, and precision. And as Jason's attacks grew faster and more forceful, each punch seemingly designed to overpower her, Maya's calm did not waver. Instead, she subtly shifted her weight just enough to redirect his momentum, using his own force as the instrument of control, a movement so seamless and invisible that it seemed almost impossible, her body rooted, her stance unbroken, while Jason, blinded by aggression and his own expectation of dominance, did not realize the skill with which his strikes were being turned against him. The very energy he had unleashed now rebounding, subtly, perfectly, as though guided by an unseen hand. The dojo around them seeming to hold its collective breath as the impact of his force met the precision of her control, the motion fluid, almost artistic, a perfect counter without the need for unnecessary motion or exertion. And in that instant, Jason's eyes widened, a flicker of disbelief crossing his face as he began to sense the shift, the realization that he was no longer the one in control, while Maya, her expression composed and unshaken, maintained the stance that had been the foundation of her defense, demonstrating a mastery that went beyond strength and speed, that reached into timing, awareness, and the ability to transform an opponent's aggression into a tool for their own downfall. And as the momentum of Jason's strikes carried through, subtly redirected, the other students around them gasped, some instinctively stepping back, others leaning forward in amazement, as the elegance of Maya's technique became evident, a testament to years of disciplined training and unshakable focus. And in that continuous motion, without a single wasted step or unnecessary shift, Maya exemplified the essence of martial arts. That true strength is not always in attacking harder or faster, but in observing, redirecting, and mastering both the mind and the body. And in that charged moment, with Jason's own force now betraying him and Maya remaining perfectly grounded, the dojo witnessed the undeniable proof that precision, control, and inner balance can overpower even the most aggressive of strikes, leaving the room in awe and setting the stage for the inevitable conclusion of this confrontation. Jason's momentum, already destabilized by Maya's precise redirection, surged forward uncontrollably, his body carried not by intention, but by the raw force of his own aggression. And for a split second, the world around them felt suspended. The students lining the edges of the dojo froze with wide eyes. The instructor leaned in subtly with a knowing gaze. And even the sunlight drifting across the polished floor seemed to halt mid-beam, as if the entire room were waiting for the inevitable moment, when skill would confront brute force in its purest form. And as Jason's body lunged ahead, expecting Maya to retreat or stumble, she instead remained anchored exactly where she had stood from the beginning, her feet rooted with unshakable balance, her spine aligned perfectly, her shoulders relaxed and steady, giving her an aura of effortless control that contrasted sharply with Jason's rapid, chaotic forward drive. And in one fluid motion, so fast it seemed almost invisible, she pivoted her wrist, guiding his arm across her center line while her other hand pressed lightly but decisively against his shoulder, using nothing more than the energy he had generated himself, allowing his own speed to propel him directly into the counter technique she executed with flawless timing, her body barely shifting, her stance unchanged as she absorbed the momentum and redirected it as though she were channeling a current of water, precise and unbroken. And then, before Jason even understood what had happened, his feet left the ground, his balance completely surrendered to the motion Maya had orchestrated. His body lifted and flipped with a grace that contrasted painfully with the harsh reality of his fall, the sound of the mat erupting beneath him in a deep, echoing thud that reverberated through the dojo like a thunderclap, sending a ripple of shock through every watching student. Their gasps sharp and collective as they witnessed what seemed like an impossible feat, a perfectly executed slam delivered without brute strength, without struggle, without Maya ever breaking her stance. And Jason lay there for a moment, eyes wide, staring up at the ceiling as if searching for answers he could not yet comprehend, his chest rising sharply with each stunned breath while his mind, still reeling, raced to piece together the sequence of movements that had led him from confident attacker to crumpled learner on the mat. And Maya, unshaken, stepped back with a controlled grace, her expression calm, her breathing steady, her posture returning instantly to its neutral form, as if what she had just executed had required no more effort than shifting a piece of silk through her fingers, embodying the essence of mastery that transcends the physical act itself, while the instructor, his eyes gleaming with a mixture of respect and satisfaction, stepped forward slightly, nodding as he recognized the flawless precision of Maya's technique, a technique rooted not in physical superiority, but in perfect timing, awareness, and an unwavering connection to the fundamentals of martial discipline. And the students around them, who moments earlier whispered doubts or expectations of Jason overwhelming her, now stood in silent awe, some exchanging glances of disbelief, others shaking their heads at how decisively the confrontation had turned, their admiration directed entirely toward Maya, who had demonstrated that true strength lies not in overpowering an opponent, but in harmonizing with their force, understanding it, and transforming it with such clarity and control that the result feels inevitable. And Jason, finally pushing himself up slightly with a wince, looked at Maya not with anger, but with dawning realization, the arrogance in his posture dissolving into humility as he began to understand the depth of skill she possessed and the lesson he had been taught, one that would stay with him long after the bruise faded, while the dojo, once buzzing with competitive energy, now settled into a reverent quiet, the atmosphere thick with the unspoken acknowledgement that they had just witnessed a moment of true martial brilliance, one that would be remembered long after the echo of his fall faded from the mat. The dojo settled into a profound, almost reverent calm after the intensity of the confrontation, the air thick with the lingering shock of what everyone had just witnessed. And as Jason slowly pushed himself to his feet, still clearly processing the stunning reversal that had brought him down moments before, Maya stepped forward with the same composed grace she had maintained throughout the entire exchange, her movements smooth and deliberate, her expression neither triumphant nor condescending, but grounded in the quiet confidence of someone who understood that mastery was not proven through humiliation, but through discipline and respect. And when she bowed toward him, lowering her head with the formal reverence that the art demanded, the students around them instinctively straightened, sensing the significance of the gesture, while Jason hesitated for a heartbeat, his pride wrestling with the sharp sting of defeat, his ego bruised more deeply than his body. But then something shifted. In his eyes, a realization, a softening, as if the fall he had taken had knocked loose not just his balance, but the arrogance that had blinded him. And with a long exhale, he returned the bow, though it lacked the fluidity of Maya's movement. It carried sincerity, his shoulders dropping from the defensive tension they had held all morning. And when she extended her hand toward him, offering help rather than victory, he accepted it, gripping her palm with a mixture of gratitude and humility. The earlier smirk replaced by an earnestness he rarely showed, his voice low and edged with disbelief as he murmured, "I didn't see that coming." "You're incredible." The words falling heavily but truthfully into the quiet room. And Maya responded with a small, composed smile, her breathing steady, her presence still serene as she replied, "Strength isn't about hitting harder, it's about staying grounded and precise." Her voice carrying the calm assurance of someone who understood the deeper philosophy behind every movement, and the instructor stepped forward then, his posture dignified, his expression a blend of approval and pride as he addressed the class, using this moment, this simple, humbling exchange between two students, as a lesson far more powerful than any demonstration he could have performed himself, speaking in a low, steady tone that carried effortlessly through the dojo about control, discipline, and the essence of martial arts, while the students stood in silent attention, absorbing the weight of the message, their eyes shifting between Maya and Jason, the quiet respect in the room growing with each passing second as they recognized Maya not merely as a skilled practitioner, but as someone whose mastery reflected not only physical technique, but emotional command, a level of understanding that transcended movement and extended into character. And as the attention slowly diffused and the class prepared to resume practice, the camera's imaginary lens would pull back, capturing the dojo from a wider angle. Sunlight spilling across the floor in soft golden streaks, students adjusting their belts and taking their positions with renewed seriousness. Jason glancing once more at Maya with a look that mixed newfound respect with the undeniable desire to learn rather than prove, and Maya walking calmly back to her position, her posture steady, her aura unshaken, unaware or perhaps simply uninterested in the admiration that now followed her from every corner of the room. While the lingering echo of the earlier slam seemed to transform into a symbol, an emblem of discipline triumphing over ego. And as the final shot widened, the room appeared not merely as a place of training, but as a space where character was forged, where lessons extended far beyond physical combat, where humility and mastery intertwined, and where the true essence of martial arts revealed itself in the stillness after the clash, the quiet after the storm, and the respect earned not through victory, but through unwavering composure, flawless technique, and the kind of strength that remained steady, silent, and profoundly grounded.